Titles and gifts compared by Richard Anthony from https://counterdeed.com/. 1 Corinthians chapter 12 verses 28 to 30 speaks of the gifts of the Spirit, such as apostles, prophets, and teachers. This is not an invitation to call yourself something, but God gives you the gift to do something. Scripture never says the title, the Apostle Paul, it says Paul, an apostle. Galatians chapter 1 verse 1, Timothy 1-1. We never read of Apostle Peter, but Peter, an apostle. 1 Peter chapter 1 verse 1 and 2 Peter chapter 1 verse 1. Equally, we find the terms pastor, shepherd, and evangelist, but we do not find anyone using these terms as a title attached to their name. He's not evangelist Philip, but Philip, the evangelist, Acts chapter 21 verse 8. It's not that these are the only gifts you have, because you're only teaching when you are actually teaching. Nobody calls you a sleeper just because you sleep at night, and you probably sleep more than you teach. They don't call you a breather or an eater, and that's what you predominantly do. If somebody asks, "Are you a carpenter?" or "Are you a painter?" you respond, "No, I am not." You can doth work of one, but you're not that thing. The terms carpenter and painter are verbs, not nouns. It's something you can do, but it's not who you are. You can work as a carpenter, or as a painter. It's all in the words. As means like or similar to, but it does not mean you are that commercial entity. Jesus, our example, never answered to those commercial designations. For example, the Jews did ask Jesus, "Is not this the carpenter?" Mark chapter 6 verse 3, but notice Jesus did not answer to that fictitious title, he did not give life to it. The Jews also asked, "Is not this the carpenter's son?" Matthew chapter 13 verse 55, but, again, Jesus ignored their man-made label, he avoided their fiction, and stayed in the truth. He did not engage in the words of the world, but spoke the words of God. The purpose of all these different legal personalities is to humanize you. If you use the words of the world, if you use the words that Caesar created, beware. You may be brought under their jurisdiction. When you go to one of these human being judges and say, "Well, I'm not a resident, person, human being, natural man, I'm not this and I'm not that," how can you say you're not a human being yet speak like one? You're inconsistent, so therefore, you can't be telling the truth. This is how the ungodly knows whether you're speaking the truth or not. They say, "You speak like one of us, and yet you say you're not one of us." And they'll proceed to get jurisdiction over you since you are bearing false witness. You see, in simple terms, this is the test they use: if it looks like a duck, acts like a duck, and quacks like a duck, then it is a duck. In other words, if someone looks like they are of the world, and acts like they are of the world, and speaks the words of the world, then he is of the world. Remember, all are in the world, but we are not to be of the world.